Welcome, welcome everybody. I've got Susan back and we're going to share with you because we are well into her healing. She's been working with me since January and she had so many symptoms. So I'm going to share some things with you guys. I'm going to bring Susan on. Welcome, welcome, Susan. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking.
So Susan and I have known each other for a number of years. She was a private client. And she came back to me in January. You guys may have seen her video, but today we're going to try and condense everything as much as possible because we've gotten through so many things. She has had several chronic illnesses. So if you don't have all this going on, I just good for you. But the reason we're going to share all of it is because you may have one or two, you may have several, you may have a whole different ball of symptoms going on, but we want to share all of her symptoms. So Susan came to me and was experiencing a whole lot of stuff. And what I want you to understand is none of these were fully addressed. I mean, she has had a lot of trauma in her life. So she had PTSD. She had unregulated emotions. She had anxiety. She had depression. She had brain fog. From the mental, emotional stuff, you would think that's an isolated issue, right? Not so much. So let's go through just the symptoms and then we're going to walk you through what has happened because it's been miraculous. This has been an incredible journey. We did biomagnetism therapy and I also did health coaching with her and emotional and mental coaching, but also we did the biomagnetism and all this stuff. So this was holistic. We're handling it body, mind, and emotions, not isolated. But here's her physical symptoms: acid reflux, vertigo, severe neuropathy and nerve pain, thyroid disorders, skin rashes, hair loss. She was always cold. She couldn't regulate her temperature very well. She had no tears, no nasal fluid, like she couldn't blow her nose, nothing would come out. It was all dry, like all of her mucous membranes were dry. Systemic Candida, she had abdominal pain and liver pain, severe indigestion, severe constipation, hemorrhoids, arthritis, pain in her hands and her feet, high blood pressure, seasonal allergies, as well as allergies to a bunch of the medications, frequent infections and UTIs, foot fungus, gallbladder problems, yeast infections, pelvic pain, oral infections. She also had a white tongue most of the time that she was going through all of this other stuff, and you were seeing somebody. So can you share that? Like what were you getting help with, and how long did you live with a lot of this stuff?
Probably for 30 years.
Yeah.
At least.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have primary care doctor, and I did go to specialists, and it's just one of those things where that is too much to share with one doctor. They'll send you to lots of different specialists to address each of their issues. Oh no, primary care will say, oh no, I have to send you to a gastroenterologist for this. And my dentist saw my white tongue and he said most people do have it.
And your tongue is supposed to be, just so y'all know, your tongue is supposed to be pink. It's supposed to be a nice pinkish color. When you have white, there's usually something going on, like Chinese medicine doctors, they look at your tongue. You stick your tongue out and they identify the things going on in your body by looking at your tongue. Are you too hot? Are you too cold? Do we have infections? So that was one of the issues. Now, just one by one, you've had PTSD for how long?
It was diagnosed in 1997. Probably had it sooner than that, as you and I discovered, but it was officially diagnosed in 1997.
And when you came to me, your emotions were pretty low. And the brain fog was intense, like you couldn't focus, right?
I couldn't focus. I couldn't focus at all. I thought I was going to die.
She was on several prescriptions, and I'm sharing a screen with all of them typed up. Susan, the prescriptions she was on: steroids, off and on, antibiotics, off and on, pain pills, off and on. When she was working with me, when she first came, acid reflux pills. You were on, they told you to take Miralax, 3 times a day?
Before that, they had me on Citrucel for years.
Yeah, the little drink the fiber stuff. Thyroid medication, but not that you were on synthetic thyroid medication, over-the-counter hemorrhoid creams and whatever. And then they talked about doing hemorrhoid surgery, right?
Yes.
And then allergy shots and medications. She had gallbladder removal surgery. Currently, however, you are on now a natural thyroid. You're still taking hormones orally, but you're not taking them vaginally anymore, correct?
Correct.
And you're on a homeopathic and natural remedy for the hemorrhoids, right?
Right.
So we took a list of drugs, and now she's off of those things. So I want you guys to understand like where we've come. And we have come so far, so very far with her. Where are you now?
I'm so happy right now. I'm a different person mentally, and I think you know that, but my best friends certainly know it. A lot of people that are close to me in my circle have noticed that I'm a total different person mentally. I'm so happy, and I'm so glad to be alive and on this journey. My pain was so acute that I think for those 30 years, I walked around holding my stomach. I walked around doubled over.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer in that pain, and life is great. I love my food. I'm excited.
And the acid reflux?
I don't have any acid reflux at all.
Vertigo?
Vertigo is very minimal, but we know why I have
so that. And your vertigo, let's go through the levels of this stuff. Like your vertigo, when you came to work with me, was at a what?
If it's a 10, remember, I couldn't walk or drive.
Yeah, she was holding the walls to walk down the hall. And now what are you doing?
I drive everywhere. I'm on the road. I run errands. I go visit. I'm happy. I'm doing all kinds of crazy things.
Your vertigo has been directly tied to, as we've continued to work together, directly tied to your neuropathy, your nerve pain. And your nerve pain was also very high. What was that at?
I believe it was a 10, right?
Yeah. So nerve pain and vertigo made it so she could barely walk inside her house, let alone drive and everything else. Now, tell the audience, how much are you walking a day?
I walk for my mental health, to enjoy God's beauty, and I also walk for my intestines, and I walk about close to 10,000 steps a day. Sometimes you tell me not to, so I don't, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, she's walking a couple of times a day. And before, she couldn't imagine literally leaving the comfort and safety of her home, which was making life untenable.
I was so chronically ill that I wanted to commit suicide. I'm not ashamed to say it. I didn't know that there was any other way out. I asked you to please help me because you were my last hope.
And now, how do you feel about life?
I'm so excited. I can't. I'm so excited for life, and I'm full of joy and happiness and all of God's beauty. It's just a blessing for everything. As far as I've come, I can't believe it. I've gained 10 pounds.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So when Susan's 5'8", when she came to me, how much did you weigh?
114.
And now how much do you weigh?
124.
There you go. And here's some of you might think that's not miraculous, but here's the deal. The first couple of months, she didn't eat any food. She was on full liquids. I took all food away because her abdominal pain was so bad because her liver was shut down. Her liver was really congested and it was causing all kinds of problems. So I sent her some plant-based meal replacements, and we put her on a plant-based diet. And this is the miracle. She's on all plant-based. She was losing weight for several years and couldn't gain any weight. She was so sick. And now, not only are you active, you're gaining weight on this plant-based diet, right?
I am, yes.
And yeah, but
no gluten, no meat, no dairy, and I've gained 10 pounds.
But when I first told you we're going to have to stop all this stuff, you weren't happy about it at first, right?
It seemed devastating at first. Tell anyone that they can't have their fast food or their nacho cheese. I also was so sick that I didn't think I was going to be able to pull it off. I didn't think I was going to be able to handle preparing and cutting and chopping and doing all this.
And you thought it was going to be out of your budget too.
I did. I live on Social Security, and so you have to watch every penny that you spend, and it is, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
I found a way.
Yeah. And now you enjoy your food, and you
I
don't
love
have
my
the,
food.
you don't have the liver pinching, abdominal pain, which along with all of that, her nerve pain would just skyrocket. So they were directly tied together. But here's the other thing. Anytime she would have stress, anytime she would have anxiety, anytime she had to take care of something, or something from the past would come up, her nerve pain would shoot through the roof, and so would her liver pinching. And we've been able to regulate all of that now. And we aren't going to get too deep into that because that's her personal stuff. But your nerve pain, that's been something what did they tell you about that?
I was told I had osteoarthritis and to be grateful that it wasn't rheumatoid, because then I didn't have to take the strong rheumatoid arthritis medication that destroys your organs. So I was told I had osteoarthritis and to take some over-the-counter medicine. Maybe I was prescribed Celebrex one time. I'm not sure. But, you know, I was just told to take over-the-counter things.
And where's your arthritis now?
I don't have any arthritis pain.
Yeah. So the arthritis pain in your feet and your hands, what happened to that? How quickly do we resolve that?
Fairly quickly, if I recall.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Yeah.
My knuckles are small again. They were huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those of you who are suffering with arthritis and you think you can't heal it, you can. I go after the cause, not just the symptoms. I'm going over her symptoms with you so that you can understand all of what we've cleared. We have, you had a diagnosis of hepatitis as well, right?
Yes.
Herpes, which was this was all recent diagnosis when they were trying to figure out what was going on with you. This was back in September, August, something like that last year.
Yes. The herpes diagnosis was last year.
Yeah. So, and she was going Western Med and she was going to a naturopath. She had such severe symptoms. None of it was getting resolved. Now, with all of the medications she was taking as well, this was just go to one doctor for this, go to another doctor for that. But her liver was so bad, her digestion was so bad. In August last year, she had her gallbladder removed. And what did that do?
That was what blew everything, I think. Although the abdominal pain was severe, you know, they saw me so many times at the emergency room, and the doctor saw me so many times that they did do, I forget what kind of scan it's called that they do on the gallbladder, and they found some stones, and they said, you know, with her level of pain, and, you know, I didn't go to the ER seeking medicine, but they did give me a shot for the pain. Right. Because my blood pressure was so high. They could tell I wasn't there seeking drugs, but after the gallbladder was removed, that's when the herpes diagnosis came along and things got a lot worse.
Everything got a lot worse. Yeah. Your pain got worse too, right?
Oh yeah. I never got rid of that severe abdominal pain. And it was the same pain that I had before the gallbladder was removed.
Because it was coming from the liver. But they took her gallbladder, and that is one of the most common surgeries in the US. But on top of that, and like I said, I don't have your diagnoses on the screen, but I do have them written down. You were also told, because one of the medications you were on for, and mind you, she had her entire body has been in pain. She had pelvic pain. And with the quote unquote herpes diagnosis, and I'm not saying she didn't have the virus in her body, she did, but it's not what was causing a lot of this. When the symptoms didn't line up with herpes, they told you had vaginal atrophy.
Yes.
Which is women in menopause and yada, 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 and all the pelvic pain and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you had a pelvic scan as well, right? Where's your pelvic pain now?
A 0.
And have you needed allergy shots this allergy season?
Oh, no. Those allergy shots made my arthritis hurt times 10, times a million.
And your abdominal pain when you eat now?
I love my food. I have no abdominal pain.
Once in a while, you do get a little spike of liver pain when you eat something that your body doesn't like. And the other day, because we've added all kinds of foods back in for her, I mean, from plant-based, there's some hard chew stuff that I still am holding back on with her because she doesn't have a gallbladder, which means she doesn't have a reserve of bile. So it's harder on the liver. The liver will squeeze, pinch. It feels like pain to get extra bile to digest these harder to digest foods.
Well, I ate some oatmeal and I only ate a half of a very small serving. And within 20 minutes, I believe I was on the phone with you, my liver started pinching, and that is a pain that I will never forget.
What did we discover? What did you discover about that oatmeal that made your liver?
It wasn't gluten-free. First thing that I've put in my body since January 4th that wasn't gluten-free, and my liver it hurt.
So most of you're on the oral hormones. You're not on the other hormones that you have to insert vaginally. A lot of people don't talk about this stuff. And so you suffer thinking you have to go to the doctor. That is the only thing you can do. And Susan, we had to clear a lot of stuff. We had to clear Candida. And it was in her entire system, her digestive tract, also vaginally. And she had frequent UTIs. At the very beginning of treatment, it blew up a little bit and we cleared all of it finally. And for the most part, what have you found with all of that? And then with the hormones, because I had her stop the hormones vaginally.
Well, we cleared it up. It's gone.
So maybe it wasn't vaginal atrophy after all?
Obviously, it wasn't vaginal atrophy.
Because I want you to understand the power of what we did. We did, when I did the magnets, I had to empty out a whole lot of parasites, help stimulate, detox, and die off from a lot of parasites, liver flukes. We did roundworms, tapeworms. I mean, you name it. We had all kinds of parasites that were coming out. And before that, mind you, how many years were you constipated, Susan?
30.
Okay.
Perhaps 40.
It's a long time to hold your shit. Just saying. There's a long time.
I didn't know any better.
Yeah. So now, how many parasites do you think you got out? Like how many pounds of parasites? Just take a guess.
I can't. This is so new to me. It's remarkable what I have witnessed that has come out of this little tiny body.
But here's the thing, when the parasites started to release, and you will have some die-off symptoms, like there would be some pain, added nerve pain when something would die off. And I would tell her, like, give it a day, because I know this stuff has to come out, because they release neurotoxins when they die off. And they release neurotoxins even when they don't die off, which is responsible for a lot of people's brain fog, because parasites eat and then parasites eliminate as well. And those toxins go into the bloodstream and then they affect the way you think in your brain. So you're brain foggy. On top of the bacterias and the viruses that are in your system, Epstein-Barr is insidious for mental issues, for emotional issues, for depression, for anxiety. But Epstein-Barr too will hide into the cells and get activated with other things that are in the body, especially activated by stress, which you've had a ton of stress throughout your life, especially the last 10 years or more. And your condition, your physical condition was all over the place and just at a place where you couldn't handle it anymore, right?
Exactly.
So when we got rid of the parasites and your nerve pain was spike in the morning after you did, you cleared your bowels, did it affect how you felt?
Oh, yes. I totally felt relief.
And
I could function.
Yeah. So that was directly related, right? Those poisons in your body, those parasites in your body were also related to how you felt. in your brain. I
Yes.
mean. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
No more acid reflux. You're going to the bathroom fine. Like you weren't going. How often would you go to the bathroom before? With the Miralax and the Citrucel, like how often would you go to the bathroom?
Oh, once every 3 or 4 days.
And see, that breaks my heart because I hear people come to me a lot with that. And I'm like, well, no, you're supposed to go to the bathroom at least once a day, minimum once a day. You should be going after every meal. That's how our digestion works. Now, how often do you go? Like, how much do you eliminate on a daily basis now?
About 6 or 8 times. We're still clearing things out, remember?
But it's not diarrhea and it's not super hard.
It is not.
And you're not on Miralax.
No, I'm not.
And then your hemorrhoids have been a problem for how many years?
30.
And your father had issues with hemorrhoids, right?
Yes, he did.
And we're told by doctors that that's genetic. And I'm going to say right here and now, it's not genetic. What is inherited from our parents, however, is the parasites, the bacteria, the funguses, and the viruses. And so, and you guys were exposed and lived in a house with E. coli in the water, right?
Yes, I recalled 2 times in my life where I lived in a house, well, actually 3, where I lived in a house with E. coli. And it was confirmed by the city that the E. coli was in the water.
And you had mold exposure too, right?
I did. When we moved here to East Tennessee, we moved to a house that had mold in it, and that was in 2007. And that was the most recent mold exposure, and clearing out a lot of nasty areas of the house to move in 2019. So I probably sat there for years inhaling the mold and
Right.
in and out of some of the rooms that I knew had mold in them.
So, I mean, mold exposure is something that is hard to detox, but not impossible. And it doesn't like, you don't have to live with the effects of it. We cleared a lot of the symptoms from the mold exposure fairly quick. That was one of the easier things that we had to work with, right? But going back to the hemorrhoids, because you've suffered with external where they come out to the point where you explain that, like how bad were they? Because I know a lot of people suffer with hemorrhoids.
It was chronic. It was chronic. I had tried everything over the counter, and the doctor kept giving me steroid suppositories to use to treat it. And you've helped me understand what steroids do to the liver and the intestines. So my goodness, steroids. So that wasn't the answer. You know, I had recent trips last year to my gynecologist, and when he examined me, he said, you know, what are you going to do about these hemorrhoids? Actually, he saw that I had allergic reaction from a steroid shot that I was given. And he said, who is getting to the bottom of this? You are in bad shape.
Nobody. And while her hemorrhoids are not completely gone, where's your pain level and the irritation with the hemorrhoids now?
Oh, it's at a 1. It doesn't control my life.
Yeah. And it's no longer like, it doesn't stay external. She's able to, you know, the hemorrhoid is shrunk enough. And this is without surgery, without, you know, medications. This is all homeopathic. Susan and I could literally go on for days with everything because we've been doing emotional processing and release. Where's your level of PTSD?
A 2.
How would you describe, like, what's remaining? Like, where were you at before? I mean, how is it affecting you and where are you now?
Before, I simply, I had many episodes where I couldn't handle any situation practically. A simple situation I couldn't handle. If I cut my finger, I couldn't handle just seeing a little bit of blood. If I spilled something, you know, I overreacted to everything that was going on. I shook, I trembled, my hands trembled. I was just out of control with PTSD and emotions and anxiety. It was bad.
And now
I'm handling things just fine. Memories come up, and I've learned how to work through them and let it go. And things don't bother me at all. I spend most of my time being happy and looking for joy.
How long were you living in the house where you couldn't really leave very often?
Oh, well, I didn't leave my other house because I assisted working from home. So since 2007,
It's a long time to feel so isolated.
and I
So,
definitely stayed isolated since 2019 because of the pain and the trauma and the physical symptoms.
well, and the other thing I wrote on this list, like you couldn't cry. You had no nasal. Like, where's all that now?
It's all flowing. All of my areas where you should have liquid flow, nothing was flowing. My skin was flaking. Now everything is wide open, and I have plenty of tears when I need to have a good cry, and I have plenty of nasal fluid, and everything else is working fine.
And what color is your tongue?
It's red.
Got rid of all the white.
Got rid
So,
of it.
yeah, all of this. And she had some oral stuff come up at the very beginning. And you've had recurrent oral infections and cavities and pain. And what happened with all of that?
Well, my mouth is all fine now. We've cleared it away. We've cleared it all out. I don't have any oral pain at all.
But that was a big thing in the beginning. I mean, everything kind of was already blown up when I started working with her. And then as we went, through each part of the body that was imbalanced, things would blow up as I focused. And I had to clear all of her face, her trigeminal nerve, because those nerves are tied in to the other nerves in the pelvic region, the pain down her leg, all of those things. Like sometimes I'll place magnets on Susan in her feet and you'll feel it where?
You'll put it on my feet and I'll feel it in my face.
And you actually had some facial paralysis for a while too, right? They told you had a stroke?
Yes. I don't have any symptoms of a stroke at all. They told me that I had a stroke because they did a brain MRI because of my vertigo.
Mm.
I have no symptoms of a stroke whatsoever.
But you would get eye twitching and your face muscles
Yeah.
would kind of tweak out a little bit, right?
Yes, but remember, I also received Botox down my neck and down my shoulders for the treatment of migraine headaches. And you said you had to pull botulism out of me.
That's true. Yeah. So that was one of the things that we worked on. I forgot about that. She did have Botox injections for her neck, and that is the botulism. I mean, they say it's harmless. No, it's not harmless. It stays in your body. And we literally, this was just a month or so ago, when we got to the real deeper level clearing out of the tissues and everything in her neck, your neck like flared up. What happened?
It was
that?
Bright red.
And burning.
Burning. It looked like I had a major sunburn just on my neck, not my face, anywhere else, just on my neck.
Yeah. And it took us a few days, right? It was just a few days.
Yeah.
And it all came out. Has it come back?
No.
Yeah. So all of that came out of her body as well. I mean, when I say she had a lot of stuff, she had a lot of stuff. What would you say to people who are looking at their bodies and looking at these chronic health conditions, these even the acute stuff, because you had acute stuff pop up too, as far as listening to the doctors, being shifted from doctor to doctor to doctor? Because when you came to me, you're like, they're telling me there's nothing wrong with me, or it's in my head, because they couldn't figure it out. So what would you tell them about doing something like this and changing your diet and dealing with it emotionally, mentally, as well as physically?
It's worth it. You're worth it. It's what I would say to them. Please give it a try. It's worth it. I don't miss the bad food.
And I'm going to add this on because I have other clients that have, like, people come to me all the time and they want to know, well, how long, how many sessions? I can't tell you that. Like Susan asked me that when she started booking in with me, and she did a package of Biomagnet, and I was like, you've been sick a long time. I don't know until I do a scan, but even then I don't know until we see how your body reacts. That's entirely up to your body. I can't be sure how long it's going to take. But for people who just are like, well, then I'll just go plant-based, I'll just do detox and add some supplements, what would you tell them with the kind of conditions that you've been dealing with?
I tried that. I tried to just follow plant-based and do supplements without you, and I didn't get anywhere.
You were doing the
I
medical
couldn't
medium
do it.
protocol years ago, right?
I was, yes. And I still use his recipes. I've read his books. I look at his videos, but I could not have gotten this far of progress without you,
Right.
without biomagnetism.
And you've
your
been to
coaching.
Counseling before too, right?
I've had so much counseling, many counselors. I've had so many types of counseling for PTSD and anxiety.
And a lot of the traumas. And one of the things Susan and I were talking about the other day, because we had to dive into some of the traumas that was really holding on in her nerves. And I was like, wow, magnets are not going to take, like, we got to go at this in a different way. So let's address the trauma. And when I say address, I mean, let's address it, let's clear it. But what happened to you before when you were in therapy? Because you had told me, I wish someone had done this with me before. What did they do instead?
Well, we did a form of EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and she would move her hands, and she would take me to a happy place, which to me was the beach. And she would take me there first, and then she would just have me talk about the situation that caused the trauma or the incident. And she would have me describe it over and over again while my eyes were moving, following her hands. And then she would say, time is up, and let's bring you back to your happy place, and now you're good.
And how did you end up feeling when you were leaving? What did that do to you?
I left crying, and I never got better.
Yeah. And the one of the things I explained to Susan about that, and I'm not saying EMDR is not good. EMDR is a great modality. It works for a lot of people, but you don't have to go back into the trauma and be re-traumatized to heal and clear trauma. In fact, for the people that I've worked with PTSD, and I get really good results because we're shifting out of it. You know, we don't want to literally just open the whole thing up and make you relive it, because your mind, your emotions, your body doesn't know the difference. So what ends up happening sometimes with those therapies, especially if you leave someone on the edge of a cliff with it and you've opened this whole thing up, you're literally creating massive stress response within the body, which then lowers your immune system and spikes all of your other symptoms, as well as now you're back in an event of PTSD. You're back in survival mode. You're back in heightened response. That doesn't need to happen like that. There is all kinds of other tools that can be used that I employ that is a gentle way to keep you out of it even if it gets triggered and you're in it. Because we talked briefly about some of the stuff that you were holding on. You had images coming to your mind the other day. How long did it take us to go through that process?
Was it 20 or 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Maybe.
And what happened at the end of it?
My pain was gone. Zero.
Yeah. And now it's been a couple days. It's been what, 3 or 4 days? And you've had a lot more emotional release since then. But how do you feel about your past traumas and stuff?
I'm okay. I've accepted it and moved on. I've accepted it, recognized it, it happened, and I've let it go.
And you're not afraid, like, oh my God, it's going to come popping out of the proverbial closet and cause you problems?
I said those words in so many situations most of my life. I'm so afraid. I'm not afraid.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming on here. And I want to thank you for openly sharing your story months ago, and now dialing it in even farther, because we've resolved, like, the only thing that we're basically at now is getting the nerve pain down to a 0, right?
Yes.
We have had moments where your nerve pain was at a 0, correct?
We have. We have.
So we know
Yes.
it's possible, but nerve doctors will tell you, you know, it takes a long time, if it's even possible, because sometimes they'll say nerve pains, you can't heal it because there's nerve damage. No, we've been healing the nerves, and she can feel the vibration and the tingling as the nerves heal. But to go from, your maximum pain threshold to on a daily basis down to a 4 and then down to a 2, down to even hitting zeros, like huge difference. And this is without medication, all natural. So it is possible. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up? Because you don't have and we're in July. So we started in January. You haven't had any recurrent Candida infections, yeast infections, right?
Oh, none.
Bladder infections, UTIs?
None. No, none.
This is the one that I love too. You were always cold before. How's your body temperature now?
My body temperature is fine. I'm not cold anymore. My feet aren't cold. I am not cold.
And you're able to sweat now too, right?
Yes. Yes.
You weren't able to sweat
I'm going to the infrared sauna.
But before you really didn't sweat, right?
No, I wasn't sweating at all.
Which
no
means
perspiration.
Lymphatics were clogged up. So she wasn't draining things through her lymphatics, and that's back. She had massive hair loss too. How's your hair?
Hair is good, and I don't have hair loss anymore.
Yeah. And Susan, you don't have to share your exact age, but would you give me, like, what era of life are you in?
I'm 62. I'm not ashamed of it.
Okay, thanks. I just want people to know, for the sake of, because some people will go, well, maybe she's 40, no, she's 62. She's been chronically ill for a long time. This woman was not leaving her house. She was afraid to drive. She was holding onto walls to make it from room to room. And she doesn't have a huge house. It's just her now. But literally, she's out walking 10,000 steps a day. She's out driving and doing all the stuff that she does, cleaning her car this morning. I mean, she's doing all the things now, where back in January, she was no quality of life, right? You had no quality of life.
No, I didn't.
And spent her life just trying to get out of pain, and then running to doctors trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And while, they never went after the cause, they were all treating symptoms, and she had several doctors. We are at a place where her symptoms are so dang minimal now, between the biomagnetism, the diet changes, the emotional and mental coaching, the health coaching. I've taught her all about her body. She's in her body now. And she's living her life fully present and completely aware. So I just want to say thank you, Susan, for coming, because you show people what's possible for them on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level. Anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
I just want to thank you for your patience, your kindness, your determination, and for never giving up on me.
Thank you for listening. Susan's my star client, because she does listen. Like, I have a lot of people who are like, I can't do that. It's too hard. When you get sick, that sick, you will do anything. If you want to live, and you want to live with quality of life, you will do anything. And it may seem like a huge sacrifice, but the one thing Susan has said to me, and I'm going to let her tell you about going back to the old way of eating.
I'm not doing that. That's not happening. Not going back to the old way of eating. Never again. I don't want to experience that. I want to live.
And people invite you places, right? And does it bother you that you have to go to places like McDonald's and see people eat these things, but you can't have it?
It doesn't bother me at all. I take my smoothie with me, or I take my water. I've already had my lovely food. I go and enjoy the fellowship. They understand, and it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, so
I don't crave that food.
Yeah, once you detox it, it's amazing. You don't crave it, and your body feels so much better. You don't want to put more poison in. And we've had to detox years of chemicals, years of mold exposure, years of prescription drugs. I mean, we've had to detox a lot of stuff, but when you get to the bottom of it, and she's had to detox old emotions that are hiding in the body and old events, and bring it all into neutrality so that she can move on with her life. But it is possible. And, a lot of people will say, well, you worked with her for 7 months. You're right. And this was all compounded since the time she was a very little girl. It's not like she lived a healthy life her whole entire life. She's had issues with physical stuff, emotional stuff, mental, her entire life. And they just got worse and got worse and got worse. And now she's finally free. The whole second half of her life is going to be completely different. So there is hope. If you are interested in getting in touch with me and you want to see how I can help you with biomagnetism, or health coaching or life coaching, then reach out. All you have to do is send me a message. You can email me, which is Bernadette@bernadettegold.com. And we'll jump on a Zoom call like this, and we can talk about what's going on with you and get you on the road to health. So thank you, Susan. I love you.
Thank you.